You mentioned briefly of Iran having a nuclear weapon, or someone I interviewed said there's a risk, and for me, I still struggle to believe that to be a genuine risk of Israel using a nuclear weapon, which I think is, in my mind, is completely off the table. But I'd love to get your thoughts on these 3 points. So a radiation leak and the risks of that. As someone lives in Dubai, which is close by to Iran, it's a concern. Number 2 is a nuclear attack by Iran, and they might have a nuclear weapon through a briefcase, something, or what do you call it, a dirty bomb, for example. And the third one is a potential nuclear attack by Israel.
So in my experience, in the U.S. military nuclear service, as well as the U.S. CIA, in my experience, nobody wants to use a nuclear weapon. Nobody wants to use a nuclear weapon because it's so devastating in so many ways. It's economically devastating. It destroys life, it destroys infrastructure, it destroys land, and then it has secondary impact on neighboring countries. It has secondary impact on non-nuclear targets with a change in the wind, right? So the traditional large-scale nuclear weapon, nobody wants to see those be used. Everybody wants to use them as a deterrent. A deterrent means, hey, I have a nuke, so don't mess with me. I have a nuke, so obey my boundaries, right? Obey my statements. That said, we have watched as the threat of nuclear deterrence has become less impactful over time, right? Ukraine invaded into Russia, no nuclear response. Israel has bombed nuclear facilities inside Iran. You've seen conflict all over the world where there has not been nuclear escalation of the kind that we saw during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So the question becomes whether or not we're actually getting closer to the use of a nuclear weapon, specifically because people want to send a message saying, remember, nuclear weapons are devastating. So why do I say that? I say that because I think Israel has less of an appetite to use a nuke than Iran. Israel doesn't want to be the country that sends a nuke into Iran. They don't want the world to think that they're not strong enough to handle it conventionally. They don't want to destroy Iranian infrastructure, because if they destroy Iranian infrastructure, when they commit their regime change, the first thing that regime is going to have to do is clean up a nuclear fallout site. So Israel does not have an appetite for using a nuclear weapon. But Iran understands that it may only have one option left. The only option it has left may be a small tactical nuclear warhead delivered by a truck into some other country, into Israel or into a pro-Israeli state. We don't even know. But Iran understands that if it has a nuclear warhead, and a warhead capability is very different than a delivery vehicle capability. And a delivery vehicle capability is different than the success of that delivery vehicle going into the actual target. This is what we're watching with North Korea all the time, right? North Korea continues to have these failed delivery vehicles, missiles that fall out of the sky or rockets that go off trajectory or whatever. So if Iran doesn't have a warhead, or if they haven't developed their own warhead, but they have someone else's warhead, say a Russian warhead that was given to them, we don't know. And what they do with that warhead is going to be critically important, because if Iran uses a nuke, the world is going to wake up to, oh shit, we shouldn't mess with people that have nukes. But if Israel uses a nuke, then the whole world's going to turn on Israel and say, why would you nuke a country that's poorer and weaker, and you already have military dominance? So it's a question of how it would work.
Are you worried as well of a radiation leak, or?
I'm less worried about a radiation leak in terms of nuclear weapons, because nuclear weapons are solid state. They're a solid state version of uranium or plutonium. So it's not like when a nuclear reactor has a meltdown, then you have to worry about a leak. I lived in Abu Dhabi, Mario, in 2018, 2019. And my primary concern in Abu Dhabi was that Iran would target Abu Dhabi rather than target Israel, because Abu Dhabi is pro-Western. Abu Dhabi has a lot of military infrastructure down there that's Emirati-owned and Emirati-based. And in 2018, 2019, there were still tensions, some growing tensions between Iran and UAE. I don't know what those tensions look like today, but it would be easier for Iran to smuggle something into Abu Dhabi or the UAE than to smuggle something into Israel. But it would still send the same message, right?
Yeah, because then you've pressured the US by striking a US ally, impacting the global economy, but not attacking